After Mom died from cancer, Dad started calling me by her name and buying me her clothes. When I woke up on their anniversary, to him on my bed with roses and their wedding song playing, I locked myself in the bathroom, but then I found out I was pregnant, despite never being with anyone. The fertility clinic had security footage of him carrying my unconscious body inside during the 3 days after Mom's funeral, when I thought I was just grieving. After Mom died from cancer, Dad sat by her hospital bed for 16 hours holding her hand. He kept saying, "I can't do this without you, Sarah. Please don't leave me." The nurses had to give him something to calm down just so he'd let go. When we got home, Dad walked around like he wasn't really there. For weeks, he left all Mom's stuff exactly where it was. Her coffee mug sat on the counter with her lipstick mark that made me cry every morning. He asked me, "Emma, could you make her chicken parmesan tonight? It would help me feel like she's still here." While I cooked, Dad watched old home videos on repeat in the living room. At first, it was nice hearing Mom's laugh all the time and pretending like she was still with us. But as winter turned to spring, Dad's sadness shifted into something scary. He stopped sleeping in their bedroom and moved to the couch, telling me, "I can't sleep in there, Emma. It smells like her perfume and I hear her breathing." At 3 in the morning, I'd find him hugging her pillow talking to nobody. I suggested therapy and he actually agreed to go twice a week. But it wasn't long before I found appointment cards in the trash. Sigh. One April night when I came out of the bathroom, he called me Sarah in the dark hallway. He immediately followed up with, "Sorry, Emma. You looked like her for a second." His apology was anything but reassuring because something in his eyes had changed. I reminded him, "Dad, I'm Emma, your daughter," and he nodded slowly without saying anything. I thought it would end there, but he called me Mom's name more and more. I tried to tell myself it was just part of the process, but that's when he started buying me the same clothes Mom wore. These ugly flower shirts kept showing up in my closet, and he'd lie, "They were on sale and I thought you'd look nice in them." When I told them that they were Mom's style, he'd just say, "Exactly," with this sickening smile. My shampoo kept getting replaced with Mom's brand, and when I switched it back, it would mysteriously change again within days. Then one morning, all my stuff had been moved to their bedroom. When I asked why, through tears he said, "I need you close, Sarah. Emma, the nightmares are getting worse." That was the last time he called me Emma. I could tell something terrible was coming, but nothing could have prepared me for their anniversary morning. I woke up to him on my bed with a breakfast tray, roses everywhere, candles burning, and their wedding song playing. He smiled and said, "Happy anniversary, my love. I can't believe it's been 20 beautiful years of marriage." I sat up fast and said, "Dad, what the F is this?" Suddenly, I was hit with a wave of dizziness. When I tried to catch my balance, he smiled. "You've been so tense recently, Sarah, so I put anxiety medication in your water." I sat there helpless as he pulled out red undergarments. He held it up saying, "You wore this on our wedding night. Time to put it on again." I shook my head hard and said, "Dad, please, you're scaring me. I'm Emma." But his eyes looked empty. When I pushed the tray away, he grabbed my wrist hard. "Why are you acting like this, Sarah?" he said while I screamed, "Mom is dead. I'm Emma. I'm your effing daughter." His face twisted and he yelled, "Stop lying. You're my wife. You've always been my wife." He lunged forward trying to kiss me, hands grabbing at my chest while saying, "This is our anniversary. Stop pretending you don't remember our first time." I screamed, "Get off me!" and bit his lip until it bled. As I stumbled to the bathroom, he called, "Sarah, come back. Don't lock me out on our special day." I barely locked the door before he got there. He pounded on it saying, "I'll be gentle, I promise. Just like our first time. Please don't be scared, my love." When I didn't respond, his tone shifted to anger. "Sarah, open this door right now. A wife doesn't lock out her husband." All I wanted to do was call for help, but I didn't have my phone on me. When I heard him punching through the door, I screamed, "Help! Somebody help me!" Thankfully, somehow my neighbor Mr. Lee heard. Dad was able to unlock the door after he punched through it, and he had this sick smile. My skin crawled when he said, "There you are, sweetheart. No more hiding, catching me with a needle. This will help you remember who you are." I fought back as hard as I could, though I knew he could overpower me. But everything stopped when Mr. Lee pounded on our front door. "John, is everything okay in there?" he yelled. Dad called out, "Everything's fine, Tom. Sarah's just having one of her episodes again." But Mr. Lee yelled back, "John, Sarah's gone. I'm calling the police." I sobbed, "I'm not Mom. I'm Emma." The police found him on top of me telling them, "Officers, there's been a misunderstanding. This is my wife, Sarah." Even in handcuffs, he cried, "Sarah, tell them you're my wife." One officer asked, "Miss, what's your name?" And I sobbed, "Emma," his daughter. Dad started thrashing, "She's confused. She's sick. We've been married 20 years. As they led him away, he kept yelling, "Sarah, I love you." He was put in a psychiatric holding facility. He had been locked up for 2 months when I got the news. It came in the form of 2 pink lines on a pregnancy stick. My heart dropped because I thought I was a V-card holder. I stared at those 2 pink lines until my vision blurred. The bathroom tiles felt cold under my bare feet as I sank to the floor, pregnancy test clutched in my shaking hand. How could this be happening? I'd never been with anyone, never even kissed a boy. The only explanation made my stomach turn. My phone buzzed on the counter. The psychiatric facility's number flashed on screen. Against every instinct screaming at me not to answer, I picked up. Dad's voice came through eerily calm, nothing like the man who'd been dragged away in handcuffs 2 months ago. "How's our baby, Sarah?" The test slipped from my fingers, clattering on the tile. Behind his voice, I heard an orderly whisper urgently to someone. My throat closed up. How could he possibly know? I hung up without speaking, my mind racing. The morning he'd attacked me wasn't the only time I'd felt strange. There were those 3 days after Mom's funeral when everything felt foggy. I'd thought it was grief, exhaustion from planning everything while Dad fell apart. But now, "I helped you sleep better those nights," Dad had said when I'd mentioned feeling groggy. The memory hit me like ice water. Those missing days, the strange dreams, the soreness I'd attributed to sleeping wrong. A knock at the door made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Mrs. Chen from next door holding a casserole dish. I opened the door, trying to look normal despite my world crashing down. She smiled warmly. I made too much lasagna, dear. Thought you might like some. Her expression shifted to concern. Are you feeling all right? You look pale. I forced a smile, taking the dish. Just tired. Thank you. Of course. Oh, I've been meaning to mention, during those nights after your mother's funeral, I saw you sleepwalking to the garage several times. Around 2 or 3 a.m., I was worried but didn't want to intrude during your grief. My hands trembled. The garage? Yes, multiple times. Your father said you were having trouble sleeping, that the doctor prescribed something to help. She patted my arm. Well, I'll let you rest. After she left, I practically ran to the garage. Dad's workshop area looked normal at first glance. Tools hung neatly on pegboards. His workbench was clean, but something felt wrong. I searched behind boxes, under tarps, anywhere he might hide something. Behind an old filing cabinet, I found it. A small camera mounted to the wall, red light still blinking, recording. The timestamp showed last night's date, but Dad had been locked up for 2 months. My hands shook as I traced the wire to a laptop hidden under a tarp. The screen showed multiple video files. I clicked on one from the week after Mom's funeral. The image made me gag. Me, unconscious in the backseat of Dad's car. The camera angle showed everything, but when I tried to skip forward, the crucial segments were corrupted. File after file showed the same thing. Me unconscious, then corruption where the actual assault would be. A box beside the laptop caught my eye. Inside, I found Dad's journal. His handwriting, usually so neat, looked frantic. I flipped through pages of grief, then stopped cold. Conjugal visits with Sarah during her sleeping hours. She's more receptive when the medication helps her relax, just like our honeymoon. I photographed page after page with my phone when footsteps made me freeze. Aunt Patricia stood in the garage doorway, her expression unreadable. Emma, what are you doing out here? I shoved the journal behind my back. Just looking for something? She stepped closer, and I noticed her eyes weren't surprised. They were calculating. That's your father's private workspace. You shouldn't be snooping. I live here. I can go wherever I want. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course. I've been visiting your father, you know, weekly. He's getting better. More like his old self. Her gaze dropped to my hands. Is that his journal? No. Don't lie to me, Emma. She reached for it, but I stepped back. He's making such progress. The doctors say he might come home soon if he continues improving. He attacked me. He thought I was Mom. He was grieving. People do strange things when they lose someone they love. She moved closer. Give me the journal. It's private. The doorbell rang, saving me. I rushed past her, journal still in hand. My best friend Mika stood on the porch, lunch bag in hand. Ready for our lunch date? I brought Thai food from that place you... Emma, what's wrong? I wanted to tell her everything. About the pregnancy test, the videos, the journal, but the words stuck in my throat. Well, Dad's grief counseling clearly went off the rails somewhere between healthy mourning and let's recreate our wedding night with my teenage daughter. That's one heck of a plot twist I did not see coming. How could I explain that my own father had just a rough morning? I managed. Mika's eyes narrowed, looking past me to where Aunt Patricia emerged from the garage. Everything okay? Fine, Patricia said smoothly. Just checking on my niece. I'll see you at Sunday dinner, Emma. After she left, Mika pulled me inside. Okay, spill. You look like you've seen a ghost. I opened my mouth, closed it. The pregnancy test was still on the bathroom floor. The journal burned in my hands, but I couldn't form the words. I found some stuff of Dad's, I said finally. Disturbing stuff. What kind of stuff? I showed her one page of the journal, watching her face pale. Oh my god, Emma, this is... I know. I flipped through more pages, stopping when something fell out. Medical receipts for fertility substances, purchased online 2 months before Mom died, with my forged signature as the patient. He was planning this, I whispered. While Mom was dying, he was planning to... Mika grabbed my shoulders. We need to call the police. This is evidence of... No! The word came out sharper than intended. I can't. Not yet. I need to understand what happened first. My phone rang. Dr. Hoffman, Dad's psychiatrist. I let it go to voicemail, but he called again immediately. Emma, this is Dr. Hoffman. Your father is making excellent progress. He's been asking to apologize to you. I think a visit would be therapeutic for both of you. I don't think that's a good idea. He's genuinely remorseful. The medication is helping him see reality clearly now. He understands you're his daughter, not Sarah. The fertility substance receipt crinkled in my hand. I'll think about it. Wonderful. Oh, and Emma, your aunt mentioned you've been under stress. If you need someone to talk to... I hung up. Mika stared at me. You're not actually considering visiting him? Number. But something's not right. How did he know about... I couldn't say pregnancy. How is he still controlling things from inside? We spent the next hour going through the journal and receipts. Every page revealed new horrors, detailed plans, substance dosages, even mentions of the security cameras he'd installed to monitor Sarah's recovery. Emma, we need help. This is too big for just us. She was right. But who could I trust? Aunt Patricia was clearly on Dad's side. Dr. Hoffman seemed fooled by Dad's act. The police had been useless before. Let me think, I said. I need to be smart about this. Mika reluctantly agreed to give me time. After she left, I sat in my room, surrounded by evidence. The pregnancy test hidden in my drawer seemed to pulse with its own terrible presence. I needed to know more. The fertility clinic receipt had an address. Tomorrow, I'd go there. Maybe they'd have records, security footage, something to prove what Dad had done during those lost days. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. A photo of me from one of the corrupted videos. Unconscious, vulnerable, and a message. Such beautiful memories of our time together. Can't wait to make more. Your loving husband. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. Somehow, even locked away, Dad was still watching, still reaching out, still convinced I was Mom. I grabbed the journal and receipts, shoving them into a bag. Whatever happened next, I needed to protect this evidence, because something told me Dad's excellent progress was just another manipulation, and if Aunt Patricia had her way, he'd be coming home soon. The next morning, I drove drove to the fertility clinic with Mika beside me. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The receptionist at the front desk looked up with a professional smile that faltered when she saw my face. I explained I needed information about appointments from several months ago. The receptionist typed something into her computer, then frowned. She excused herself and returned with an older woman who introduced herself as Beth, the clinic manager. Beth's expression grew concerned as I showed her the receipts. She led us to a private office and closed the door. After checking the dates against their system, she confirmed someone matching my description had been brought in during those exact time frames. The appointments were listed under my name, but the signature on the consent forms didn't match mine at all. She printed copies of everything she could legally share, including security footage stills that showed Dad carrying an unconscious woman into the clinic. My stomach churned seeing myself limp in his arms. Beth whispered that she remembered Mom from years ago when she'd tried IVF treatments here. She'd always wondered why Dad kept asking about fertility options for his wife when everyone knew Sarah had passed. Back in the car, Mika held the evidence while I tried not to throw up. We decided to make copies of everything and store them in multiple locations. As we pulled into a copy shop parking lot, I noticed Aunt Patricia's car following us. She'd been 3 cars behind us since we left the clinic. Inside the shop, I quickly made copies while Mika watched the door. Patricia entered just as I finished, pretending surprise at running into us. She made small talk while her eyes tracked the papers I was sliding into different envelopes. When she reached for one, I pulled them all back and told her we were leaving. That afternoon, I returned home to find Dad's letters had started arriving. 3 envelopes sat on the kitchen counter, all addressed to Sarah in his handwriting. My hands shook as I opened the first one. He wrote about our growing family, how excited he was for the baby, and included appointment reminders for prenatal checkups. The second letter contained ultrasound photos he'd somehow obtained, with arrows pointing to what he claimed was our miracle. The third made my skin crawl, detailed plans for converting my room into a nursery. I photographed each letter before hiding them with the other evidence. My phone rang constantly, unknown numbers that I let go to voicemail. When I finally checked them, they were all from Dad, his voice switching between calling me Sarah and Emma, sometimes in the same message. The next few days, I noticed more signs of Dad's reach. My work supervisor called me into his office, expressing concern about my mental state. Apparently, Dad had been calling, claiming I was having episodes and needed time off. When I tried to explain the situation, my supervisor's expression made it clear he thought I was the one with problems, not Dad. I requested my medical records from our family doctor, only to discover Dad was still listed as my emergency contact and medical proxy from when I was a minor. The receptionist apologetically explained she couldn't release them without his consent. Even my attempts to change this were blocked. The forms required a psychological evaluation to prove I was competent to make my own medical decisions. Desperate for professional help, I made an appointment with a therapist Mika found online. Dr. Martinez seemed sympathetic at first, taking notes as I explained everything. But when I mentioned Dad's name, her expression shifted. She set down her pen and revealed she was Dad's cousin. Family photos on her desk that I hadn't noticed before showed them together at various gatherings. She suggested my accusations were a grief response and offered to prescribe anxiety medication. I left her office feeling more trapped than ever. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made me jump. Around 2 a.m., I crept to Dad's home office with a flashlight. His computer was password protected, but I knew his habits. The password was Mom's birthday. His files were meticulously organized. One folder labeled Sarah's Recovery contained hundreds of photos of me sleeping, taken over months. Another held medical research about fertility substances and their effects, but the folder that made my blood run cold was titled Project Sarah Reborn. Inside were detailed plans dating back to when Mom was first diagnosed, spreadsheets tracking my cycle, notes about which substances would be undetectable, even architectural plans for basement renovations. I copied everything onto a USB drive, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. A car door slammed outside. I peeked through the blinds to see Aunt Patricia's car in the driveway. She had a key. I quickly shut down the computer and slipped out the back door just as I heard her entering through the front. The next morning, I found prenatal vitamins in my bathroom cabinet. I hadn't bought them. The receipt tucked inside was dated 2 months ago, before Mom had even died. I flushed them all down the toilet and installed new locks on my bedroom and bathroom doors. At the grocery store, I ran into several of Mom's book club friends. They congratulated me on my pregnancy and asked about my engagement. When I stammered that I wasn't engaged, they exchanged knowing looks. Apparently, Dad had been calling them from the facility, sharing the wonderful news about our growing family. I abandoned my cart and drove straight to Mika's apartment. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside. While I sat on her couch trying to breathe normally, she made calls to everyone she could think of who might help. Most were dead ends, but then she remembered her friend Jordan who worked at a pharmacy. Jordan agreed to meet us at a coffee shop. When I showed him the receipts for the sleeping pills, his face went pale. He recognized the prescriptions. Dad had been picking them up for months, claiming they were for my anxiety. The doses were dangerously high, enough to keep someone unconscious for hours. He also revealed something that made my stomach drop. Dad had an appointment scheduled at the fertility clinic for next month. The note in their system mentioned continuing treatment for wife's fertility issues. Jordan printed out what records he could access and promised to keep an eye out for any new prescriptions. The way Emma's dad planned everything while her mom was dying makes me feel sick for her. Finding those receipts showing he bought fertility drugs before her mom even passed, that's such a deep betrayal of trust. That evening, I heard a knock at the door. My younger cousin Stephanie stood there holding a package, saying Aunt Patricia asked her to deliver it. I thanked her but warned her to be careful around Patricia. When Stephanie looked confused, I simply told her to trust me and never be alone with our aunt. Inside the package were maternity clothes, all in Mom's size and style. The gift tag read, "For our growing family, love, your devoted husband." I spent the next hour backing up all my evidence to cloud storage, creating multiple accounts under different names. As the files uploaded, I noticed my laptop running slower than usual. A quick check showed someone had installed monitoring software. The installation date matched when Aunt Patricia had borrowed my laptop to check email last week. I performed a factory reset and started fresh, but the damage was done. Who knew what information she'd already accessed? My banking, my emails, my search history, all of it potentially compromised. The police sergeant I spoke with the next day barely looked up from his paperwork. He explained that restraining orders don't apply to institutionalized patients since they're already confined. When I showed him the letters and evidence of ongoing harassment, he shrugged and suggested I change my phone number. The system offered no protection against someone who was technically already locked up. That night, I met with Jordan and Beth at Mika's apartment. They'd both lost people to similar situations. Jordan's sister to an ex who'd stalked her despite being in jail. Beth's friend to a husband who'd controlled her even from prison. We weren't alone in this, but that only made it more frightening. How many others were trapped like this? We created a simple communication system, code words for different situations, regular check-ins, and safe meeting spots. It felt like preparing for war, but what else could we do? Searching through Dad's work computer files, I found more evidence of his delusions. The folder labeled Project Sarah Reborn went deeper than I'd initially seen. Encoded files that took hours to crack revealed his complete break from reality. He genuinely believed Mom wasn't dead, that she'd been transformed into me, that getting me pregnant would complete her resurrection. One file made me run to the bathroom to vomit. Detailed notes about Mom's appearance at my age, how similar we looked, how he'd noticed this when I was just 14. The planning went back years, waiting for the right moment. Mom's cancer had been his opportunity. Dad's childhood friend Marcus reached out after hearing about the situation from Mr. Lee. Over coffee, he revealed something that explained so much. Dad's mother had died young, in childbirth actually. Dad had been raised by his grandmother who told him repeatedly that he'd culled his mother by being born. The trauma had shaped everything about how he viewed women, death, and rebirth. Marcus showed me old photos of Dad's mother. The resemblance to both Mom and me was undeniable. 3 generations of women who looked alike, and Dad's broken mind had conflated us all into one person who kept dying and being reborn. At the grocery store, I kept my head down, but Aunt Patricia found me anyway. She cornered me in the cereal aisle, accusing me of spreading lies about Dad. When I tried to leave, she grabbed my arm. Other shoppers started staring. I stayed calm, quietly asking her to let go. When she raised her voice about family loyalty, I simply held up my phone, already recording. She released me immediately, but the damage was done. The security footage would later save me when she tried to claim I'd attacked her. Several witnesses came forward to support my version of events, having seen her aggressive behavior. The facility called to inform me that Dad's insurance would run out in 30 days. After that, he'd either need to be transferred to a state facility or released. The social worker's apologetic tone made it clear which option was more likely. Budget cuts meant the state facilities were full. Dad would probably be released with outpatient requirements he'd never follow. That same day, Rosa, a cleaning lady at the facility, called my cell. She'd gotten my number from the visitor log and felt I needed to know something. Dad had been hiding his medication for weeks, pretending to take it but actually saving it up. He was planning something, she was sure of it. She'd reported it to her supervisors, but nothing had been done. During Sunday dinner at Aunt Patricia's house, I watched her carefully. The mask slipped when she called me Sarah while passing the potatoes, then quickly corrected herself. But Uncle Robert noticed. I saw the confusion in his eyes, the first crack in his loyalty to his wife. Dad's lawyer contacted me about a reconciliation meeting. He painted a picture of a remorseful father who just wanted to apologize and make amends. The inheritance he mentioned was substantial. Apparently, Dad had life insurance policies I never knew about. All I had to do was agree to supervised visits. I declined and hung up. Uncle Robert showed up at my door the next evening looking troubled. He'd found Patricia's journal while looking for their tax documents. She'd been visiting Dad far more than she'd told anyone, sometimes daily. The journal entries showed her growing obsession with Dad's version of reality, how she'd started to believe Mom might really still be alive somehow, transformed into me. We agreed he'd keep watching Patricia while pretending everything was normal. He looked broken as he left, realizing he'd been living with someone whose grip on reality was slipping. Mr. Lee's log proved invaluable. He'd been documenting strange occurrences since Mom died, originally just out of concern for a grieving neighbor. But the entries painted a disturbing picture. Dad bringing contractors to work on the basement during my blackout periods, deliveries of medical equipment, late-night activities in the garage when I was supposedly sleeping. His most disturbing entry described seeing Dad carry me to the car multiple times during those lost days after Mom's funeral. I'd been completely limp, unconscious. Mr. Lee had assumed I was sick with grief, that Dad was taking me to the hospital. He'd never imagined the truth. Up on the contractor lead, I tracked down the company Dad had hired. The worker I spoke with remembered the job clearly. Dad had wanted a basement room renovated into what looked like a medical suite. He'd claimed it was for home care for his sick wife. The contractor had found it odd since everyone knew Sarah had already passed, but the money was good, and it wasn't his business to ask questions. I convinced him to let me see the work order. The specifications made me sick. Medical-grade ventilation, reinforced soundproofing, multiple electrical outlets for equipment, a small refrigeration unit, everything needed for a private medical facility. That night, I broke into my own basement. I'd avoided it since moving back home, but I needed to see. Behind a new wall that looked like storage shelving, I found a hidden door. My hands shook as I opened it. The room beyond was worse than I'd imagined. Medical equipment filled one corner, examination table, IV stands, monitoring devices. A refrigerator hummed in the corner. Inside, I found vials of fertility substances and something worse, frozen genetic material labeled with my name and collection dates matching documenting my blackout periods. Photos covered one wall, me at every age, morphing into pictures of mom, then pictures of dad's mother. In his broken mind, we were all the same woman, dying and being reborn over and over. The centerpiece was a hospital bed with restraints, waiting for its next occupant. I photographed everything, then got out of there. My hands shook so badly I could barely lock the door behind me. This wasn't just assault. This was a fully planned operation to use me as an incubator for his delusions. Mika quit her job the next day, rather than deal with Patricia's escalating threats about lawsuits and slander. Her boss had been sympathetic but couldn't risk the drama. We spent the afternoon updating resumes and looking for new opportunities for her, trying to pretend our lives were normal while everything crumbled around us. The support network grew organically. Mom's prayer group reached out after hearing whispers about what was happening. These women had known our family for years and had their own suspicions about Dad's behavior. They offered meeting spaces, emotional support, and most importantly, they believed me. Former neighbors started coming forward with their own observations. The woman across the street had seen Dad carrying me to the car during those blackout nights. The elderly couple next door had heard strange noises from our garage at odd hours. None of them had spoken up before, assuming they were misunderstanding innocent situations. Now they realized they'd been witnesses to something terrible. Dad's attempts to contact me escalated. Fake social media accounts appeared daily, sending messages that alternated between declarations of love and detailed descriptions of our supposed future together. I reported each one, but new ones appeared faster than the platforms could remove them. The facility's security footage revealed he'd been coaching other patients to call me, giving them scripts to read. One recording Rosa smuggled out showed him teaching a confused elderly man to say he was calling about prenatal appointments for Sarah. The manipulation was systematic and relentless. With less than 2 weeks until Dad's insurance ran out, I had to make hard choices. The pregnancy was still early enough to terminate safely, but I struggled with the decision. This wasn't just about me, it was potential evidence of his crimes. Yet carrying it felt like letting him win, like participating in his delusion. The prayer group women surrounded me with support as I made my choice. Dad's friend Marcus basically said, "Hey, your dad thinks you're his mom reincarnated because grandma told him he killed her during birth. Talk about needing therapy before having kids, not after." They drove me to the appointment, held my hand in the waiting room, and took me home after. No judgment, just love and understanding. The tissue samples were preserved as evidence, just in case. Patricia's own children started pulling away after overhearing conversations about the situation. Her eldest daughter refused to visit anymore, scared of what her mother was becoming. Her son asked Uncle Robert if they could stay with his parents for a while. The family was fracturing, but at least the younger generation was protecting themselves. Multiple witnesses came forward about Dad's concerning behavior before Mom's death. Her oncologist's notes, subpoenaed by a sympathetic nurse, showed Dad had been asking about increasing her pain medication doses. He'd been unusually interested in which combinations might be fatal, claiming he wanted to avoid accidental OD. The facility extended Dad's hold after Rosa's reports finally triggered a review, but it was temporary, just another 30 days. The countdown continued, just slightly delayed. He lost privileges after they found the contraband medication, but somehow his letters kept coming. Other patients were smuggling them out, seduced by his manipulation or small bribes. During one of his recorded calls, Dad slipped up. While ranting about Sarah being pregnant again, he mentioned it was just like 20 years ago when I was conceived. Then he caught himself, realizing he'd just admitted knowing I was his daughter, not his wife. The cognitive dissonance was recorded, documented, one more piece of evidence that he knew reality but chose his delusion. Marcus revealed the final piece of Dad's history. His grandmother had died in childbirth too, Dad's mother. The women in his family kept dying to bring forth new life, and in his broken mind, they were all the same woman. Sarah, his mother, his grandmother, an endless cycle of death and rebirth that he was desperate to continue through me. The security footage from multiple nights showed the full scope of what had happened during my blackout periods. Dad carrying me to the car, driving to the clinic, returning hours later with me still unconscious. The timestamps matched perfectly with the procedures documented at the fertility clinic. It was all there in grainy black and white, evidence of the systematic assault I'd survived without even knowing it. As the final days of Dad's extended hold approached, the entire support network prepared for what might come next. Safe houses were arranged, check-in schedules were confirmed. Everyone knew their role in keeping me safe when he inevitably got out. But I wasn't running anymore. I'd spent months gathering evidence, building support, documenting everything. The police might not help, the system might fail, but our community was ready. The truth was out there, spreading through whispers and careful conversations. Dad thought he could recreate Mom through me, continue some sick cycle of death and rebirth, but I was breaking that cycle. I was choosing life, my own life, separate from his delusions. And I had an army of survivors, supporters, and witnesses ready to help me fight. The facility called with an update. During the review process, they'd discovered more disturbing behavior. Dad had been creating detailed plans for what he'd do when released. The plans were elaborate, delusional, and focused entirely on reuniting with his wife and their baby. This time, even Dr. Hoffman couldn't ignore the evidence. He called to apologize for not seeing it sooner. Dad's manipulation had been so complete, his performance so convincing during their sessions, but the accumulated evidence painted an undeniable picture of dangerous obsession. Rosa's written testimony arrived by courier the next morning. Her handwriting was shaky, but the details were precise. Dates, times, conversations she'd overheard. Dad had been coaching patients for weeks, teaching them exactly what to say when they called me. She'd documented everything, risking her job to help a stranger. I added her testimony to my growing evidence binder. The documentation package took 3 hours to compile. Multiple copies went to different locations, one with Mika, one with Marcus, one in a safety deposit exit box, each page carefully organized, cross-referenced, ready for whatever came next. The evidence was overwhelming now, but I knew that didn't guarantee anything. Dad's recorded calls became more erratic. In one, he referred to me as Sarah, Emma, and Mother, within the same rambling message. The facility staff had started recording everything after finding his medication stash. His breakdown was accelerating, the careful mask he'd maintained for Dr. Hoffman crumbling completely. Mom's prayer group organized a schedule. Different members would check on me throughout the day, bringing meals, sitting with me when the fear got too intense. These women who'd known Mom for decades became my shield. They'd seen Dad's controlling behavior before, noticed things they'd dismissed at the time. Now they were determined to protect me where they'd failed to protect Mom. The facility announced Dad's transfer to a long-term psychiatric hospital. Insurance had approved it based on the new evidence of his deteriorating condition. Relief flooded through me until I learned the details. The transfer would happen in 3 days, requiring transport across the city. So many opportunities for something to go wrong. Patricia's behavior grew more desperate. She showed up at odd hours, peering through windows, leaving rambling voicemails about family loyalty. Uncle Robert had moved out temporarily, taking their children to his parents' house. He called me daily with updates on Patricia's movements, documenting her increasing instability. I spent hours at the bank, changing every account Dad might have access to. The manager listened patiently as I explained the situation, helping me navigate the bureaucracy of severing financial ties. New accounts, new passwords, new everything. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of my life. The transfer day arrived with unseasonable rain. I stayed home, doors locked, phone in hand. Mika came over to wait with me. We tracked the facility's van through traffic apps, watching its slow progress across the city. Every red light made my heart race. Every stop felt like an opportunity for disaster. The call came at 2:47 p.m., not from the facility, but from Patricia. Her voice was breathless, excited. Dad had convinced her to help during a bathroom stop. She'd created a distraction while he slipped away. They were together now, coming to reunite our family. I hung up and immediately called the police, then the facility, then everyone in my support network. Within minutes, Mr. Lee was at my door with his son. Marcus arrived with 2 of his brothers. Mom's prayer group descended like an army of protective grandmothers. My house became a fortress of concerned neighbors and friends. The police said they were searching, but we all knew Dad would come here. This was where his delusion lived. As darkness fell, we waited. Someone made coffee. Someone else ordered pizza that no one ate. We took turns watching the windows, checking the locks. The rain had stopped, leaving everything eerily quiet. Even the usual evening traffic seemed muted. Patricia's car appeared at 11:15 p.m. She parked across the street, engine running. Through the curtains, I could see 2 figures inside. They sat there for 20 minutes, watching the house, probably noting all the cars, all the people protecting me. Then Patricia got out alone. She walked to my front door like she had 100 times before, knocked with her familiar rhythm. When no one answered, she tried her key. It didn't work. I'd changed the locks. She knocked again, harder, then started calling my name, mixing it with Sarah's, just like Dad did. Mr. Lee opened the door but kept the chain on. Patricia tried to push past him, demanding to see me. Behind her, Dad emerged from the car. He'd lost weight, his hospital clothes hanging loose, but his eyes were bright, focused, terrifyingly clear. He looked nothing like the broken man who'd been dragged away months ago. He walked up the path slowly, deliberately. Patricia stepped aside to let him approach. He stopped at the door, looking past Mr. Lee, searching for me. When he spoke, his voice was calm, reasonable. He explained that there had been a misunderstanding. He was better now. He just wanted to see his wife and child. I stayed in the living room, surrounded by my protectors. Through the doorway, I could see him trying to peer inside. He called my name, Emma, not Sarah, said he understood now. The medication had helped him see clearly. He knew I was his daughter. He just wanted to apologize, to make things right. The police arrived as he was mid-sentence. 3 cars, lights flashing. Dad didn't run. He stood perfectly still as they approached, hands visible, no sudden movements. Patricia started screaming about persecution, about family rights. The officers ignored her, focused on Dad. He went willingly, even smiled as they cuffed him. But as they led him to the car, he turned back. Our eyes met through the doorway. His mask slipped for just a moment. The delusion was still there, burning bright. He mouthed one word, soon. They took Patricia too, as an accomplice. She fought them, screaming about loyalty and love and family. The neighbors came out to watch. Someone filmed it on their phone. Within hours, everyone in the neighborhood knew what had happened. The whispers would follow me, but at least they were truth now, not Dad's lies. The facility faced serious consequences for the security breach. New protocols were implemented. Rosa was promoted to security supervisor. She called to check on me, to apologize for not preventing the escape. I told her she'd done more than enough. Her documentation had saved me. Dad's confession came 3 days later, not in an interrogation room, but at Mom's grave. He'd convinced a guard to let him visit one last time. Standing at her headstone, he spoke to her as if she were there, told her how he'd increased her morphine dose to help her rest, how he'd held her hand as she slipped away, how he'd kept his promise to never let her suffer. The security footage from the cemetery picked up every word, his casual admission to murder, spoken with love and tenderness. He truly believed he'd done Mom a kindness. In his mind, he'd freed her from pain so she could be reborn through me. The cycle of death and rebirth completed through his loving hands. Patricia heard the confession from her holding cell. Something in her finally broke. She realized she'd been helping a murderer, enabling a monster. Her statement to police was comprehensive, detailing every visit, every plan, every delusion she'd witnessed. She'd been so deep in grief over losing her sister that she'd let Dad's fantasy become hers. The murder confession changed everything. No more temporary holds or insurance limitations. Dad was transferred to a maximum security psychiatric facility, facing charges that would keep him there permanently. permanently. The system that had failed me finally had something it couldn't ignore. I sat in the prosecutor's office, reviewing my statement one last time. They had everything. The evidence I'd collected, Rosa's testimony, the security footage, Patricia's confession. But they wanted my story too. Wanted the jury to understand the full scope of what he'd done. I agreed, but only in writing. I couldn't speak those words aloud. The DNA test results arrived the same day. Confirmation of what I already knew. The pregnancy had been Dad's. The lab tech who delivered them looked sick. She'd seen the news, understood what the results meant. I filed them with the rest of the evidence. One more piece of proof in an already overwhelming case. Mom's prayer group helped me plan a memorial service. Not for Dad, he was dead to me now. But for Mom, a real goodbye this time. We held it in their church garden, surrounded by the flowers she'd loved. I spoke about who she really was. Not Dad's fantasy, but the actual woman who'd raised me, loved me, protected me as long as she could. Uncle Robert brought the kids to see me. They were confused, scared, processing their mother's involvement. I told them age-appropriate truths, assured them none of this was their fault. Their mother had been sick with grief, I explained. Sometimes sadness makes people do terrible things. They nodded solemnly, old beyond their years. I found a new therapist through the prayer group. Dr. Catherine Chen, no relation to Dad, no hidden connections. Our first session was just me crying while she sat quietly, offering tissues. No judgment, no medication pushing, just space to feel everything I'd been holding back. It would take time, she said. Healing always did. The house felt different with new locks, new security system, new everything. I kept finding traces of Dad's obsession, a hidden photo tucked behind furniture, Mom's perfume in strange places. Each discovery went into a box for the prosecutor, evidence of the long game he'd been playing. Mika found a new job at a nonprofit helping abuse survivors. Her experience supporting me had shown her calling. We celebrated with Thai food from our favorite place, pretending things were normal for just one evening. She was moving to a better apartment too, one with room for a roommate if I ever wanted to leave my childhood home. The trial date was set for 6 months out. Dad's lawyer tried for an insanity plea, arguing he couldn't stand trial, but the recordings proved otherwise. He knew reality, he just preferred his delusion. The distinction mattered legally, even if it made no difference to what he'd done to me. I started packing slowly, room by room. This house held too many memories, too much pain. Marcus helped me sort through everything, deciding what to keep and what to burn. Mom's real things went into storage. Everything Dad had contaminated went into the fire. The smoke smelled like freedom. My name change paperwork was approved on a Tuesday. Emma became Catherine, my middle name, Mom's mother's name. A name Dad had never spoken, never tainted with his delusions. The judge who signed it was one of Mom's book club members. She hugged me after, whispered that Mom would be proud. The support group met weekly in the church basement, other survivors sharing their stories, their strategies, their strength. I mostly listened at first, overwhelmed by how common my story was. So many people trapped by someone who claimed to love them, so many systems that failed to protect them. Moving day came with the first snow. Mika had found us a perfect apartment across town, secure building, doorman, no memories. My support network showed up to help, loading boxes, cleaning rooms. By evening, my childhood home stood empty. I left the keys with a realtor, didn't look back. The apartment smelled like fresh paint and possibility. We ordered Chinese food, sitting on the floor among boxes. For the first time in months, I felt safe, not just protected by others, but genuinely safe in my own skin. Dad couldn't reach me here. His delusions had no power in this new space. I started the job search slowly, easing back into normal life. The nonprofit where Mika worked had an opening in their administrative department. Nothing fancy, but stable, meaningful. The interview went well once I explained my employment gap. They understood, had seen it before. 6 months later, I sat in a courthouse waiting room. The trial would start in an hour. I'd testified yesterday, reading my statement in a steady voice. Dad had watched me the whole time, still looking for Sarah in my face. But I wasn't scared anymore. He was just a sick old man who destroyed his own life chasing ghosts. The verdict came back guilty on all charges: murder, assault, false imprisonment, stalking, life in psychiatric detention, no possibility of release. Patricia got probation and mandatory therapy for aiding escape. She'd lost everything: her family, her reputation, her sister's memory. Prison would have been kinder. That night, my chosen family gathered in our apartment. Mr. Lee brought Korean food, Marcus brought wine, Mom's prayer group brought dessert. We didn't celebrate. There was nothing joyful about any of this, but we acknowledged survival, resilience, the power of community to overcome evil. I started leading support groups myself, sharing my story with new survivors, teaching them about documentation, about building networks, about trusting their instincts. Every week, someone new walked through those doors, looking as lost as I'd once been. Every week, I helped them find their way. The anniversary of Mom's death came with unexpected peace. I visited her grave alone, bringing her favorite flowers. Dad couldn't taint this anymore. She was just my mother again, the woman who'd loved me, who'd tried to protect me even while dying. I told her about my new life, my new name, my freedom, Catherine. I was Catherine now, not Emma, the girl Dad had tried to transform, not Sarah, the ghost he'd chased, just Catherine, building a life surrounded by chosen family who saw me for exactly who I was. The healing wasn't complete, might never be, but I was free, finally, blessedly free. Well, Dad confessing to murder at Mom's grave while being recorded is certainly not the smartest criminal move I've ever seen. Guess he forgot about those cemetery cameras when he was busy being completely bonkers. This whole mess wrapped up with Catherine getting her fresh start, new name, new apartment, and Dad getting a lifetime supply of psychiatric hospital food, which honestly seems like the universe finally decided to stop hitting the snooze button on justice. Thanks for reading this wild story with me. It's been quite the emotional roller coaster with some seriously dark twists.